When she entered, everyone went silent. Then she pointed at me. I came for him. The grand assembly hall stretched wider than any building Elias had ever seen. Light shimmered from crystal panels embedded in the walls, and the floor was made of a material that reflected the countless colors of the chamber's occupants. Beings from hundreds of worlds had gathered, each one different from the next. Some floated above the floor, some were tall and rigid, others short and soft, with skin that changed color depending on emotion. All eyes were on the podium at the center where the meeting had just begun. Elias Ward sat near the back, his notebook open, but he did not write. He was a cultural analyst, a human among humans and aliens alike. Usually humans were not very important here. Humans were observers, scribes, recorders. They were young, barely known in interstellar politics, but Elias liked it that way. It was easier to notice details when no one thought they mattered. Today, however, something told him that nothing would go as usual. The assembly had been debating the allocation of star system resources for decades. The same arguments, the same proposals, the same endless discussion. Most beings spoke in long, measured tones, their translators converting alien languages into something understandable for Elias and the few humans present. He could follow it all easily. Yet today the air felt heavier than normal. He did not know why. Suddenly the double doors at the far end of the hall opened. A hush fell over the room so quickly that Elias felt it before he saw it. The whispers and murmurs stopped mid-word. The hum of machinery that powered the assembly fell quiet. Even the translators seemed to pause. Everyone turned to the doorway. She entered. She was human in appearance, though there was something about her that made every alien in the hall react instinctively. Her hair was dark and long, falling in a simple braid down her back. Her eyes were deep, calm, and certain. Her steps were measured but confident, and despite the strange mix of species all around her, she walked as if the room belonged to her. But it did not. Yet no one could take their eyes off her. Elias stared, not understanding what was happening. He was used to strange species entering the hall, but humans never caused this reaction. His heart beat faster. He had no idea who she was. And then she did something that made everything even more surreal. She pointed directly at him. "I came for him," she said. Her words were simple, in perfect common, a language almost everyone understood. But the power behind them was extraordinary. The room seemed to shiver. Beings that had existed for centuries froze. Elias felt every eye turn to him. Some beings' skin rippled in fear, others leaned forward, curious. It was as if the universe itself had paused to listen. Elias froze. The notebook in his hands dropped silently to the floor. He swallowed and took a step back. Me?" he asked, his voice small, almost lost in the immense hall. "Yes," she said. She smiled slightly, a gesture that was strange and yet somehow comforting. "I came for you." Who are you?" Elias asked, his voice shaking. He could feel the eyes of hundreds of species on him. He could feel the weight of the silence pressing down. "My name is Asha," she said. "I am an emissary of the observatory, and you, Elias Ward, are the one I have come for." A murmur ran through the assembly, but it was not loud enough to break the tense quiet. The beings were confused, unsure if this human's arrival had meaning, and uncertain why one of their own, him, a simple human, was being singled out. The assembly leader, a tall being with luminous eyes and silver feathers, stepped forward. "Emissary Asha," it said, its voice echoing across the hall. "What is the purpose of your visit? This is unprecedented. Humans are not part of this council. They are observers." Asha turned to the leader, her gaze unwavering. "I am aware," she said, "but the one I seek does not belong to your politics. He belongs to the future, and he holds a key that no simulation, no council, no elder wisdom has yet predicted." Elias had no idea what she meant. He had never done anything remarkable. He had spent years studying other civilizations, taking notes, observing patterns, and making reports. His life had been quiet, unnoticed, and yet here she was, speaking as if he was the most important being in the galaxy. He shook his head, confused. I don't understand." "You will," Asha said softly. She walked slowly toward him, her eyes never leaving his. "But first you must come with me." The leader raised a hand. "You cannot simply take a member of our species," it said. "They have rights, procedures must be followed. Council vote." Asha shook her head. "No vote is needed. The rules of procedure do not apply to what is to come. He is not being taken because of what he has done, but because of what he represents." Elias looked around. Some beings looked angry, others were frightened, some whispered to each other, though their words could not reach him. He felt like a small child caught in a storm of incomprehensible power. "Represents what?" he asked. "Potential," Asha said. "You have lived unnoticed. You have made choices that seemed small and meaningless, but in the grand web of outcomes, those choices matter. Your species, humanity, acts in ways that no algorithm can predict, and you have proven that unpredictability is a gift." Elias could not speak. He did not know if she meant his reports, his observations, or something else entirely. He opened his mouth, closed it, and finally whispered, "Why me?" "Because," she said, bending slightly so her face was closer to his, "you have already changed the course of things without realizing it. I'm here to ensure that change continues. You are ready whether you know it or not." The assembly murmured again, louder this time. Beings leaned forward, trying to understand what was happening. Some scratched their heads with tentacles, others' eyes widened in alarm. All of them, centuries-old diplomats and scholars, could not predict what a single human might do. Elias felt panic rise in his chest. He had never wanted attention, let alone responsibility. I don't know if I can," he started, but Asha held up a hand. "You do not need to know everything. You only need to be willing," she said. "Come with me and you will see what you were meant to see." The leader of the assembly stepped closer, wings fluttering nervously. "This is irregular, even dangerous. No human has ever—" "Danger is not the question," Asha interrupted. "The question is whether humanity is ready to step beyond observation. Elias Ward is already stepping. He only needs permission to move forward." Elias swallowed hard. His mind raced. He thought of his quiet life back on Earth, the small apartment he had, the notebooks he kept, the books he read. Nothing had ever prepared him for this. Nothing could. And yet, as he looked into Asha's eyes, he felt a strange calm. There was certainty there, purpose, something he had never known he could feel in a human. He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll go," he said. Asha smiled. The tension in the hall did not fade, but now it shifted. Curiosity replaced some of the fear. Even the leader paused, unsure what to do next. "Good," she said. "It is time. You will see why humans are remarkable. You will see why unpredictability is a gift. And you will see that what you call small can change the course of worlds." Elias took a deep breath and followed her. As he walked through the doors, leaving the assembly behind, he felt the weight of all those eyes on him. But he also felt something new, excitement. A sense that the universe was not a place of rules, but a place of stories waiting to be written, and somehow he was about to write one. As the doors closed behind them, a whisper ran through the hall. "The human, he may be more important than we ever imagined." And in that whisper, Elias felt a strange pride. He did not understand it yet, but he would. Soon, Elias Ward followed Asha through a corridor of the assembly building unlike any he had ever seen. The walls were smooth, reflecting faint colors that shifted with the mood of those who walked by. It felt alive, almost as if it could read him, though he could not be sure. Each step echoed lightly, and despite the grand size of the hallways, it felt intimate, as though the building itself had been built for someone like Asha. Not him, yet somehow he could not stop thinking that he belonged there, too. He tried to speak. "Asha, why me? I'm just a human. I've never done anything important. I write reports. I observe. I take notes. That's all." She did not look back at him. Her pace was calm and steady. "Humans have a habit of thinking small, Elias. You see yourself as unimportant, but that is exactly why you are noticed by those who watch the threads of the future. You do not act for power. You act because you notice what others do not. You notice the small choices, and in those choices lie consequences no one predicts." Elias swallowed. He had always been a quiet observer, studying patterns of alien civilizations. He had written hundreds of reports on how species behaved, how cultures grew or failed. He had spent years mapping behaviors, writing carefully structured notes, and offering suggestions nobody asked for. All of it had seemed insignificant. But now, the weight of her words pressed against him. Was it really possible that he had mattered? That some choices he had made, choices he barely remembered, had changed something? What do you mean by threads of the future?" he asked. Asha finally turned to face him. Her eyes were calm, but filled with an intensity that made him look away for a moment. "Everything that happens is part of a web. Every choice, every small action, every word spoken or left unsaid, weaving together in ways that cannot be predicted. Most species try to calculate outcomes with precision. They attempt to model the future in perfect detail. But humans break the models. Elias blinked. Break the models? How? I've seen predictions fail, sure, but isn't everyone's future unpredictable in some way? Ashas smiled faintly. Unpredictable, yes. But humans are unique in their ability to act outside expectation, not randomly, not carelessly, but in ways driven by intuition, emotion, and creativity. You notice patterns, yes, but you also choose to break them. That is why your species is remarkable. He felt his head spin. He had never thought of humans this way. All his life, humans were just small, curious observers, insignificant in the galaxy. But she spoke as though humans were powerful, not in strength, not in weapons, but in mind. And somehow that was more frightening and more exciting than anything he had ever imagined. Why me? He asked again. Surely there are smarter, braver, more capable humans than me. Ashat tilted her head. You are not chosen for bravery nor for intelligence alone. You are chosen because of the choices you have made that were unnoticed. Your decisions, small human choices, have rippled farther than you realize, and the one who notices ripples is sometimes the most important in a world of fixed rules. Elias could not respond. The words were too big for him. He had never felt special, had never believed that he could change anything beyond his little notebook or his quiet observations. And yet, here she was, claiming that he had already done so. Ashal led him into a chamber that seemed to exist outside the normal space of the assembly. The walls shimmered with moving images, patterns of stars, civilizations, and events that Elias could not fully comprehend. It was beautiful, overwhelming, and terrifying at once. He realized that this room was not just a place, it was a record. A living map of history, present, and future, all coexisting in a way that made him dizzy. This, Ashah said, is the observatory. It watches the flow of events across the galaxy. Some species think they control the future with rules, with strict decisions, with predictions. But the observatory exists to observe what cannot be predicted. And you, Elias Ward, are the proof that the future is alive. He stared at the patterns, struggling to understand. Some points of light moved with perfect precision, following predictable lines. Others shifted erratically, defying any pattern. Those are civilizations, he guessed. The bright points? Yes, Ashah said. And those that break the expected path, those are the species capable of changing the course of history. And humans have done this again and again in ways no one notices. You are part of one of those moments. Elias took a deep breath. He had always been fascinated by the galaxy. He had always dreamed of being part of something bigger, though he never believed it could happen. And now, standing here, he realized that his quiet life, his observations, his small notes, they had mattered. Somehow they had mattered more than he had ever imagined. He swallowed hard. But what did I do? I've just observed mostly. Ashah walked closer, gesturing toward one of the images. A blue star system with a fragile cluster of civilizations connected by narrow trade routes. Years ago, when you were studying the interactions between these systems, you noted something almost everyone ignored. You suggested that one small alliance could prevent a future collapse. It seemed insignificant at the time, but that suggestion was implemented in a minor council, and it worked. The collapse was avoided. The ripple grew, affecting not just that region, but the stability of an entire network of civilizations. A choice that seemed small, human, inconsequential, changed everything. Elias felt his hands shake. He remembered writing that report long ago. Nobody had read it carefully except a few junior officers. He had never imagined it could matter, and now it had mattered more than he could grasp. You mean I saved a lot of lives or civilizations? He asked. Ashah shook her head. Not intentionally. You acted as a human does, noticing, suggesting, caring, and that is the difference. You did not act to control, you acted to understand. That is why humans are remarkable. That is why you are remarkable. Elias wanted to argue. He wanted to say it was just luck that anyone could have written that report, that it was not him. But looking at her, he could not. There was a certainty in her eyes, a calm that told him he had no choice but to accept it. Ashah paused, letting the truth settle. The galaxy values predictability, Elias. They admire power, fear strength, and respect control. But none of those things can save a civilization from what is coming. Only unpredictability can. Only the ability to act without following the expected path can survive what lies ahead. Elias frowned. What's coming? She did not answer directly. Instead, she gestured to another part of the observatory, a cluster of light points swirling in a pattern he could not interpret. Something the galaxy has never faced, a force that will erase civilizations that behave predictably. Species that cannot adapt, that cannot see beyond the models they trust, they will be lost. Humanity, because of its unpredictability, will survive. And you will guide them. He shook his head. I'm just me, I can't guide anyone. Ashas smiled again, gentle this time. You already have, in ways you do not yet understand. The human who thinks small often changes the largest threads. That is why I came for you. Because when the time comes, someone must act without fear, without expectation, without certainty. And that someone must be human. Elia's mind swirled. His life, his quiet existence, the notebooks he thought nobody read, they were suddenly part of something bigger, something alive and terrifying. He felt excitement, yes, but also fear. He had never imagined that the small human life he had lived could hold such weight. And now he had no choice. He had to act. Where do we go now? He asked finally. Now, Ashas said, we observe, we learn, and soon you will understand why humanity is the one species the galaxy cannot predict and why that matters. Elias looked out at the stars, seen through the observatory's walls. They were countless. Each one a world, a civilization, a story, and somehow all of it depended on humans and him. He felt small, yes, but also important. For the first time, he understood that small choices could ripple through the universe, changing everything. Ashaz's voice broke his thoughts. Your training begins today, Elias. Not with weapons, not with power, not with rules, with observation, with understanding. With knowing when to act and when to trust the unexpected. He nodded. I'll try. That is all that is required, she said, for now. As Elias watched the stars, he realized that his life had changed forever. He had been chosen not because he was the strongest or smartest, but because he was human. And humans could change the galaxy in ways no one else could. And in that moment, Elias understood, being unnoticed was no longer a weakness. It was a strength. It was a gift. And soon, the galaxy would see it too. The observatory's corridors stretched endlessly, though Elias could not tell if they were really long or if time itself had bent the space around them. Stars shimmered through transparent panels above, below, and around him, each one glowing with life, activity, and motion. It was mesmerizing and terrifying. Every star seemed to hold a secret, a story, a civilization. Every choice made by a sentient being appeared as a line, a thread, weaving across the universe. And somewhere among the tangled threads, Elias realized his own small choices were visible, shining faintly, connecting points he had never noticed. Asha walked beside him, calm as ever. Look closely, Elias, she said. What you see is not chaos, it is patterns. But notice, humans create threads that do not follow expected patterns. That is why your species is special. He stopped, staring at a cluster of threads that twisted, bent, and curved unpredictably. Most of the other species had straight, clear lines, predictable, neat, and measurable. But the human threads wove like living vines, turning back on themselves, skipping across systems, sometimes fading, sometimes flaring unexpectedly. Why do humans do this? He asked. Why aren't we like the others? Ashas smiled faintly. Because humans think differently. Most species calculate risk, optimize outcomes, follow rules they never question. Humans improvise. They act based on empathy, hope, curiosity, and imagination. They see patterns, yes, but they are not bound by them. That is why predictions about humans fail. That is why humans survive. Elias shivered. He had always felt that humans were ordinary, fragile, small in the vast universe. Yet now Ashas spoke as if humanity were extraordinary, even dangerous in its unpredictability. But we're so small, so weak, he said. We don't have super strength. We can't travel fast like the others. We barely even understand space properly. Ashas shook her head. Strength is not measured in muscles or speed, Elias. It is measured in choices, and human choices are unique. You do not calculate everything, you experiment. You try, you help even when there is no profit. You inspire even when the results are uncertain. That is something no other species can do consistently. Elias felt a mixture of pride and fear. Pride because she spoke the truth. Fear because he realized how much responsibility that implied. So, all the work I've done, observing civilizations, writing my reports, it actually matters. Yes, Ashas said. Every observation you made, every minor suggestion you gave, every time you advised collaboration instead of control, you changed the threads. You affected outcomes, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. And you did this without even knowing. That is the human way. They walked in silence for a while, Elias absorbing the weight of her words. He had always wanted to do something meaningful, to contribute, but he never imagined it would happen like this. To know that his small choices could influence the galaxy was both exhilarating and terrifying. "But why me?" he finally asked. "Why did you come for me when humans are all like this?" "Because not every human sees it," Asha said. "Many are too focused on survival, on power, on rules. You notice the small patterns. You are curious, you observe, you care. And those qualities, human qualities, can tip the balance when the galaxy faces something it cannot calculate. You were ready before you even knew it." Elias blinked. He tried to imagine how small choices could matter so much. He thought of a time years ago when he had recommended a minor trade route change between two systems. Nobody had expected it to matter. And yet, according to Asha, that minor suggestion had prevented a minor collapse, a ripple that eventually affected entire sectors. He could hardly believe it. Asha led him to a wide chamber. The room's walls shimmered with projections of countless civilizations. Elias could see planets, cities, and beings moving like threads of light. Some civilizations were connected by straight, predictable lines. Others twisted, overlapped, and looped back unpredictably. "These are the known civilizations," Asha explained. "And these," she gestured toward the erratic, twisting lines, "are humans, or rather human-influenced systems. Notice how they bend the expected paths? That is why humans cannot be modeled. That is why humans survive." He watched, fascinated. Every twist of a human thread seemed to ripple across multiple star systems. Choices that seemed small to a single human could cascade across the galaxy, changing outcomes in ways that no calculation could anticipate. "It's incredible," he whispered. "We're like the universe itself doesn't know what to do with us." "Exactly," Asha said. "Humans are unpredictable, but that is not chaos. It is adaptation. It is creativity. It is hope. And hope is stronger than the most advanced algorithm." Elias felt a strange swell in his chest. For the first time, he felt truly proud to be human. His species had no incredible weapons, no massive fleets, no perfect control over the stars, but they had something the galaxy did not expect, something impossible to calculate. Something that mattered. Asha's tone became serious. "Soon, Elias, you will understand why this is important. The galaxy faces a phenomenon it cannot survive if it behaves predictably. Species that act only according to models, rules, and logic will fail. Humans, because of your unpredictability, will survive. And when the time comes, someone must act without knowing the outcome. That someone will be human." Elias' mind raced. "Act how? Do you mean like war or survival? Are we in danger?" Asha shook her head. "Not war. Not force. The challenge is different. It is not about strength or speed. It is about adaptation, improvisation, and choices. You will face situations no species expects, problems no model can solve, and you, Elias, will help guide humanity through them. You will learn not by power, but by understanding." He felt a lump in his throat. He had never imagined himself as a guide or leader. He had spent his life in quiet observation, taking notes and studying others. The thought of being responsible for anyone or anything was terrifying. Yet somewhere deep inside, he also felt a spark of excitement. This was what he had always wanted, a purpose beyond himself. And now it was real. They moved deeper into the observatory. More projections appeared, each more complex than the last. Entire civilizations flickered, showing their potential futures. Some were bright, flourishing, others dimmed and vanished, their paths ended by decisions or failures. Elias could see patterns he had never noticed before. He could see the ripple effect of actions, the interconnectedness of choices, and the fragility of civilizations. "Look at this," Asha said, pointing to a series of faint lines twisting through several star systems. "Years ago, you suggested that a minor alliance could be formed between two systems that had been enemies. Nobody paid attention at first, but your suggestion was recorded. Later, it was implemented subtly by someone you did not even know. And now, see how the lines bend. That alliance prevented the collapse of an entire cluster of civilizations." Elias' mouth went dry. He remembered writing that report, never expecting it to have any effect. I did that just by noticing and writing it down?" he asked. Yes, Asha said. Observation matters. Humanity's power lies in observation combined with choice. You notice what others overlook, and you act in ways that no one else would. That is why humans are not predictable. That is why humans are necessary. He felt a mixture of awe and fear. Awe at the complexity of the galaxy and humanity's hidden power. Fear at the responsibility it implied. And yet, a quiet determination began to grow within him. If his choices could affect so much, then he had to learn how to make the right ones. He had to understand how to guide, how to influence without force, how to be human in a way the galaxy had never seen before. Ashan noticed his change in expression. Do not be afraid of your human nature, Ilias. It is your greatest strength. You do not need weapons. You do not need fleets. You need understanding, creativity, and courage, the courage to act when no outcome is guaranteed. He nodded slowly. I think I understand. Maybe I want to learn. Good, she said. Learning is the first step. Observation, understanding, patience, and choice, these will guide you. And when the time comes, you will act in ways no one can predict. That is the essence of humanity. That is why humans cannot be modeled, and why they survive. Ilias looked out at the stars again, feeling their light wash over him. For the first time in his life, he felt a deep connection to the galaxy. He was small, yes, and human, yes, but humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, adaptable, capable of hope, creativity, and choices that could change everything. And he was ready to learn how to wield that power. Ashaz's voice broke the silence. The next phase begins tomorrow. You will meet others who have influenced threads without knowing it. You will learn from them, and soon you will understand your place in the galaxy, not as an observer, but as a human who changes the future. Ilias nodded. His heart beat faster. For the first time, he felt that his life had meaning. And for the first time, he understood that humanity's true power was not in strength or weapons, but in the small, unnoticed choices that changed everything. He smiled faintly. I'm ready, he said. Asha returned the smile. Good, humanity's story is just beginning, and you, Ilias Ward, are part of it. The stars outside the observatory shimmered, infinite and mysterious. And for the first time, Ilias felt that he belonged. Not just on Earth, not just among humans, but among the stars themselves. Part IV. The test no one knew was coming. Ilias woke to a light that was not like sunlight. It was soft but bright, filling the observatory's chamber with a glow that shifted in color like the surface of a distant star. The air hummed lightly, carrying a feeling of expectation. For the first time since Asha had appeared, Ilias realized he had slept. Not in a bed as he knew it, but somewhere between consciousness and the patterns of the universe itself. He felt different, lighter but alert, as if the observatory had already begun changing him. Good morning, Ilias, Asha's voice came from the edge of the chamber. She was already moving, graceful as always. Are you ready for today? I think so, Ilias said, rubbing his eyes, but I don't really know what ready even means here. That is part of the learning, she said. To act without knowing is a human trait. Most species fear the unknown. Humans embrace it, or at least you must learn to. Ilias swallowed. His heart raced. He did not yet know what kind of test awaited him. He only knew it would challenge him in ways he could not predict. And somehow, deep down, he felt that the test would not only define him, but also the future of humanity. Asha led him through a set of doors that shimmered like liquid glass. Beyond them, the observatory opened into a vast chamber with a floor that reflected the stars above. Suspended in the center were countless small spheres of light, each representing a civilization, a species, or a moment in time. The spheres moved in patterns, orbiting each other, merging, splitting, flickering. Ilias felt dizzy trying to follow them all, but Asha spoke softly. These spheres represent possibilities, she said. Not what has happened or even what will happen, but what could happen. Every choice a being makes creates a thread. Some threads are small, subtle. Others grow into vast, galaxy-shaping patterns. Humans create threads that cannot be predicted. That is why you are here. Ilias' eyes followed a flickering blue sphere that moved erratically through a cluster of golden lights. Is that one human? He asked. Ashan nodded. Yes, or influenced by one. Watch how it bends through the cluster. It changes the pattern of everything around it. That is what humans do without even realizing. He swallowed. He had always thought humans were weak, insignificant, small. And yet here was proof that his species could shape the fate of entire civilizations. Not through force, not through power, but through choice. Ashad turned to him. Today's exercise is simple in concept, but difficult in practice. You will observe, you will decide, and you will act, but the outcome is not given. No calculation, no model, no algorithm can predict what will happen. Are you prepared for that? Elias nodded slowly. I think so. I don't know exactly what to do, but yes, she smiled. Good. That is enough. Let us begin. The room shifted suddenly. The stars above seemed to collapse into a swirling pattern, and the spheres of light spun faster, forming clusters and chains that Elias could barely follow. Then Ashas spoke. Your first challenge is this: maintain balance without control. Some of these civilizations are unstable. Some are on the edge of collapse. You may suggest, guide, or advise, but you may not force them. You must act through observation and understanding, as humans do. Remember, the goal is not victory. The goal is adaptation. Elias' head spun. He looked at the spheres, trying to see which ones needed help. He could feel a tug in his mind, a connection to some of them, faint but real. It was as if he could sense their potential, their fragility, and yet he had no instructions. He had no rules, just the expectation that he would act and that his actions would ripple across the cluster. He closed his eyes, focusing. He thought of the people he had observed on Earth, the ways humans solved problems, listening, asking questions, improvising, connecting with others. Then he opened his eyes and reached out, not physically but mentally, intuitively, toward the spheres. One sphere flickered violently. A small civilization on the brink of collapse was locked in conflict, unable to agree on trade routes that could save them from famine. Elias remembered reading about similar patterns among human societies. Small interventions could prevent disaster if applied carefully. He projected the suggestion he had learned from Earth: cooperation instead of competition, sharing knowledge and trusting relationships. He could not control them, only influence. To his amazement, the sphere stabilized slightly. It did not follow his thought perfectly, but it adjusted, shifted, and avoided immediate collapse. Elias felt a thrill. He had acted not by force, but by understanding, and it worked. Ashau watched silently, nodding. Yes, see, you do not need control, you need insight, you need understanding, you need humanity. The exercise continued. Spheres of light representing different civilizations approached, each with unique challenges. Some were stubborn, some fragile, some chaotic. Elias observed patterns, asked questions, and suggested subtle solutions, relying on intuition and empathy rather than logic or force. Every action caused ripples, some small, some large. Some immediately visible, others only detectable by the faintest changes in trajectory. But all of them mattered. Hours, or perhaps days, passed. Time in the observatory was not linear, and Elias could not tell. His mind was exhausted but exhilarated. He began to understand the unique gift of humans, the ability to adapt, to influence, to change outcomes without controlling them. The galaxy, he realized, had underestimated humanity's power. Finally, the exercise reached its climax. A massive cluster of spheres approached, spinning chaotically, their threads tangling and colliding. Civilization after civilization teetered on collapse. Elias' heart raced. He could not force them, could not dictate outcomes. He could only observe, suggest, and guide. He drew on everything he had learned, understanding patterns, improvising solutions, and trusting in the unpredictable nature of humans. He reached out mentally, projecting the idea that collaboration and trust could stabilize the cluster. Slowly, as if responding to an unseen conductor, the spheres began to align, weaving into a stable pattern. It was imperfect, messy, alive, but functional. The collapse was avoided, and the once chaotic cluster became a thriving network, teeming with potential. Elias collapsed to the floor, gasping. His mind was on fire, exhausted from the effort, yet exhilarated. He had done it. Not by strength, not by control, but by human ingenuity, observation, and understanding. And he had succeeded. Asha knelt beside him. "Do you understand now, Elias?" she asked softly. "This is why humans are necessary, not because you have weapons, not because you have fleets, not because you are perfect, because you act without expectation, without control, without certainty. And that is something no other species can do consistently." Elias nodded, trying to catch his breath. I think I understand. Humans were unpredictable, we adapt, and that is powerful." "Yes," Asha said, smiling. "Powerful enough to save civilizations that would otherwise fail." And soon, Elias, you will see that it is not just civilizations that need saving. It is the galaxy itself. Elias looked at the cluster of spheres he had guided. They were stable now, glowing with life and potential. He felt a surge of pride, not in himself alone, but in humanity. Humans were small, fragile, overlooked, but in their unpredictability, their adaptability, their courage to act without certainty, they could change the universe. Ashas stood, extending a hand. Come, there is more to learn. The test you just completed is only the beginning. Soon you will face challenges where observation alone is not enough. You will need to act decisively, creatively, and boldly. That is the human way. And you are now ready to take the next step. Elias rose slowly, still feeling the weight of what he had accomplished. I am ready, he said, and for the first time he truly believed it. The observatory shimmered around them, stars and civilizations reflecting the light of countless possibilities. Elias felt a deep connection to everything: the stars, the civilizations, the humans he had left behind, and the unknown future. And in that connection he understood something profound. Humanity was not just a species. Humanity was a force, and he was part of it. The next test awaited, but Elias no longer feared it. He had learned the human way. He had seen the power of observation, choice, and adaptability. And he knew that whatever came next, he would meet it as a human, unpredictable, creative, and unstoppable.